And I am live. Hi, my name is Tyriece Simon, and this is the MMA Renegade UFC 266 prediction show. Uh, welcome, welcome. It's good to see you. Good to see you all. For those watching now live and those watching on VOD, um, we're here. We're less than 5 hours away, I believe. Yes, 5 hours away for the prelims before UFC 266, which goes down today. Main event: Brian Ortega versus Alexander Volkanovski for the featherweight championship. You also have Nick Diaz versus Robbie Lawler. You also have Lauren Murphy versus Valentina Shevchenko for the flyweight championship. You have Curtis Blaze versus Jerzy Rosenstruck. You have Cynthia Calvillo versus Jessica Andrade. You go below that. You have Dan Hooker versus, I believe his name is Nasbrat. Hope I'm saying his name right. I'm not even gonna check. So many great fights on today. But I think the one that people are most excited for is the main event, which I'm going to cover today. Um, so I'm can't wait to get into that in a second. But before we get that, hope you guys are doing well. A little bit of news to share. First and foremost, I'm sorry I wasn't able to do the Thursday show. Some things came up. Some things that's going to be happening later on today that I got prepared for. So I was unable to do the Thursday show. The prediction show I had to move it to today, just because again of things that are happening. So that's the. I'm sorry for that. I apologize. But I wanted to make it up to you today, and I wanted to do the prediction show before the actual card that happens. Also, another note, besides of course, the John Jones news that's happening, and then how you know we'll wait to see the rest of the news coming out of that. I believe he's supposed to be have his supposed to go to court today. Um, so we'll see. But uh, besides that, it really wasn't really news coming out of this week. It really didn't start coming in until really yesterday when you got the announcement of Max Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez. It's gonna happen in November, which you would imagine the winner of that fight will fight the winner of tonight's main event. Um, and also just Nick Diaz and just how Nick Diaz has been this whole entire week. That was also newsworthy. But besides that, really wasn't nothing newsworthy really in the world of MMA. So that's also that. But uh, you know, I I will say that the John Jones thing is unfortunate. Prayers to all involved, and hopefully more news will come out, and we'll start to understand the scenario and what happened. It's just so it's if you're a John Jones fan, it's disheartening. If you're somebody that follows John Jones and would like to see John Jones compete with some of the best in the world, this is also disheartening because now you would have to think that the John Jones versus the winner of Cyril Gahn and Francis Ngannou, that may not happen. Um, and also just just he has a family. Uh, you know, we'll see what the the full story is with that, but it's disheartening. It's disheartening. So we'll eventually talk about that probably next Thursday when more information is put out there. Um, but but let's get to the news. Let's get to the news of this channel, right? So I had gotten a message on Thursday, or Friday, I believe it was Thursday. Got a message Thursday that somebody would like to do an interview, and so I said, "All right, cool. We'll see what happens." And sometimes with interviews, you never know what's going to happen. Somebody could bow out, or some things could happen in miscommunication, stuff like that. But as of right now, we're doing this interview. Uh, Probably doing this interview today at 5 o'clock Eastern time. So the hope is that um, I'll be able to edit the video and edit the interview and have that put out for tomorrow. So you'll get a recap of UFC 266, and you also get a fighter interview tomorrow as well. So that is the plan. Uh, I'm excited. It's somebody that I've been wanting to interview for a while. Probably when I first started doing interviews, it's part somebody I first went to first to try to see if I get an interview with, and it just never worked out. So I'm happy now that it's happening. So I'm happy for that. I'm happy for that. But yeah, I'm excited for you guys to hear the interview. I'm gonna start prepping for it after this video, so we could have that stuff ready for tomorrow with the recap show. Also in the description, there is a link to the Discord. I run the Discord all the time. I gotta be more active with the Discord and promoting it. But we have a Discord, and the Discord is for this community, this MMA Renegade community, where we could get together and talk about various MMA topics like the John Jones situation, like upcoming pay-per-views and events, um, debates, nice debates, friendly debates, but debates nonetheless. And yeah, we're doing a watch along today. So I'm not gonna be streaming the pay per view on Discord. I can't do that. But what we can do, if you can, means by any means or whatever, you could watch the pay-per-view alongside with me, and we can talk about it together. And we could actually have a conversation about the fights as it's happening. You could get my reaction to some of the fights. You get some of the Discord members' reaction to the fights. I believe Elijah may be on the Discord as well tonight, so you'll also get his reaction. And yeah, just be a good time. Just be a good time to kick back, have a nice beverage if that's what you like. Have a nice snack if that's what you like. Just kick back and watch some fights with us. So definitely trying to create a community for that, so we could have a chill time and get more uh, from our perspective on things as it's happening. And yeah, again, we're not streaming the fight on Discord, but it is something for where if you're watching it, it'll be a fight companion, as you will, with us, and you could talk with us about what you think, and and you could share your opinions with us and let us know how you feel about the card. So that'd be fun. That'd be fun. So now let's get into it. So UFC 266 is something of a wild card for me, right? Because I was thinking about the UFC 266, and I'm like, there are a bunch of fights, two in particular, where I don't know how this is going to shake out. Uh, the Jazier Rosenstruck and Curtis Blades fight, I think I have a guess, but then again, and with heavyweights, anything can happen. Curtis Blades is the wrestler. Jazier Rosenstruck is the kickboxer. Um, you would think Curtis Blades may have an advantage against Jazier Rosenstruck because of he's a heavyweight, he has power, and he could box. Um, and you have Alexa letting people know that he was at my house. Um, and then you also have Jason, but you also have the fact that Jason Rosenstruck, you know, he does well against guys that are coming after him and trying to be aggressive, which I think Curtis Blades will be. Um, and it's something to be said about Curtis Blades against certain guys that have knockout power, like a Jason Rosenstruck and counter that is dangerous for him. So it's going to be interesting to see where Curtis Blades and Jalen was the result of that fight, especially with Curtis Blades. You know, he's somebody that we thought would probably be, you know, as a title contender in this division. He still can. He still can. But a loss over Curtis Blade, Jalen Rosenstruck, that really sets him back, and you got to wonder where he really goes from there. So that's a very interesting fight for the heavyweight division, especially if you don't have challengers like a John Jones or a Stipe Miocic. The winner of this could really be the next one up. So that's interesting. Um, Nick Diaz versus Robbie Lawler. I don't know. Like, that's one of the two fights that I don't know how it's going to shake out. I don't know how it's going to shake out just because of the fact of Nick Diaz has been gone for so long. He's also older. Um, And Robbie Lawler is a guy that, has had a rough go in the last couple of fights. But he's been fighting the best of the best. So it's interesting to see where he's at in his career. Um, And what also with Nick Diaz as well, you know, him saying that he wanted the fight to happen at 185 on the week of the fight, that was peculiar. Just wondering how his conditioning is, if he is fully ready for a comeback fight. Um, it was also interesting to hear his comments where he was talking about how he wants to fight Kamaru Usman. He believes he should be fighting Kamaru Usman, um, which I took that one or two ways. Um, if you think back about with Nick Diaz for the last two fights that he had, the one with Anderson Silva, and then the one with GSP. Those were fights where you can make the argument that he didn't really deserve those fights, but based off who he is, he was given those fights and given those big main event or championship fights. So based on that, he earned those. Outside of that, it really, I don't know if you can make the argument that he deserved uh those positions based on what he done in the octagon. But based off his name, yes, he is the draw. He is the person that's gonna be bringing people to watch this card tonight. Bringing in casual fans to watch this card tonight. Alexander Volkanovski and Brian Ortega is the main event, but the real main event is Robbie Lawler versus Nick Diaz. That's who's going to bring eyes and bring people attention to the UFC card. Um, and there's another way you can look at it as well, where is Nick Diaz is Nick Diaz motivated for this fight? It seemed like Nick Diaz took when he says it was when he was talking about Kamaru Usman and talking about how he believes be fighting Kamaru Usman. It seemed to me that he was taking a fight to take the fight because he just wanted to fight. And one of the things with Nick Diaz is how he's been out of the octagon for so long because of the marijuana suspension, which now in retrospective is ridiculous. And you can see how he changed this. He was ahead of the times. Um, and you see how with Nick Diaz, how the issue with Dana White and Dana White saying he doesn't want to fight, he doesn't want to fight, he doesn't want to fight. When Nick Diaz has said he wants to fight. Uh, and so now I could see a scenario where Nick Diaz takes the fight with Robbie Lawler just to take a fight, just to get back into the octagon, and hopefully after that he would think that maybe I'll fight Kamaru Usman next or somebody in that stature. Maybe Nick Diaz took the fight to take the fight, but it's not really a motivation behind it. It's not really a passion behind it, which he kind of said. He kind of alluded to. He said that I beat the guy already. I don't really, it doesn't really do anything for me. I don't understand why I'm taking this fight. It should be Kamaru Usman. Um, so it'll be interesting to see how he is in this fight with again time away from the octagon and also where his mindset is at. Is he in the right mindset to fight Robbie Lawler? Because he's not. He's going to be in big trouble because Robbie Lawler is still that guy. He is still that guy, and he's still somebody you should not take lightly. He still has knockout power. Um, Nick Diaz also isn't the biggest power puncher. He's more based on his wins are more based on his volume of his punches, being able to strike, being able to let his hands go, his speed. One of the things that concerns me with Nick Diaz, if you're a Nick Diaz fan, is is the speed still the same? Is the speed of his punches still the same? Can he still throw at that accuracy? Can he still throw at that high rate that we've seen from Nick Diaz in the past? Because if he can, that could give Robbie Lawler some problems. If not, if the speed is not there, then he's going to be in big trouble. Because I think that's his one big advantage over Robbie Lawler. Whereas Robbie Lawler is more his punching power, and punching power is the last thing to go when you get older. And I think Robbie Lawler still has that, and I still think he's still dangerous against a guy that again hasn't fought in how many years. So I think that's something where I don't know. I don't know. Is Robbie Lawler still the same guy? We've seen him take losses against Neil Magny, Kobe Covington, um, Tyron Woodley. I believe I'm missing somebody out of that lineup, but yeah, he's took some tough losses, and then with Nick Diaz as well. Years away from the octagon, Is he still that same guy? Can he still compete at a high level? Remains to be seen. It remains to be seen. So we'll see. It's a very much an up in the air fight. Where if you had a prediction for that fight, I would not. I don't know how you would be able to guarantee it. I don't know how you'd be able to say whether I don't know how you can stand firm in saying no. I think Robbie Lawler is going to win. No, I think Nick Diaz is going to win because I just don't know. There's just so many variables. Uh, but one fight that doesn't have variables is the co-main event. Valentina Shevchenko versus Lauren Murphy for the flyweight championship. I think Shevchenko wins again. I think Shevchenko gets the finish. It may be in later rounds. Lauren Murphy is bigger. Lauren Murphy is tough. Lauren Murphy um, is she will stick it out. She will bring the fight to Valentina Shevchenko, and I think this may be Valentina Shevchenko's toughest opponent in the last couple of fights, just because of Lauren Murphy's size and also Lauren Murphy's heart and willingness to compete. Uh, but I do think that Lauren Murphy just doesn't have the skills to compete. Doesn't have this. Just is just not to have the skills to get to create problems for Valentina Shevchenko. It's not saying Lauren Murphy is not good. It's not saying Lauren Murphy is not a elite level fighter. It's just that Lauren Murphy is just not. I don't think she's on Valentina Shevchenko's level right now. And maybe she proves me wrong. Maybe she proves me wrong. But I just history and just what we know of Valentina Shevchenko and what we know of Lauren Murphy, I would lean more towards Shevchenko winning, and I dare say Shevchenko probably wins by. Oh yeah, I know flathead. I do think Lauren Murphy gets finished probably in the later rounds, probably around 3 or 4. Um, After Shevchenko just picks her apart a little bit, and then finally finds something where she's able to finally put her down. Again, sorry for the Alexa thing. I probably should have turned it off before I started the video. Um, but I mean, here we are, right? Live. This is live. We're live right now, right? But yeah, I think Shevchenko beats Lauren Murphy. I do, and I think if Amanda Nunes beats Juliana Pena, I think we then have a conversation of possibly doing the trilogy fight between Shevchenko and Nunes. But we'll see. We'll see. And also the winner of the first fight on the main event, the main card, Cynthia Calvillo and Jessica Andrade. If Cynthia Calvillo could beat Jessica Andrade, now we have another challenger at 125. So we'll see how that goes. You say Valentina will take Murphy out by round 3. That's possible. That's possible. I don't think it's gonna be early. It's not gonna be an early stoppage. It's not gonna be something where she just goes out there and murks her. But I do think that Shevchenko can get it done. And I do think Shevchenko has more tools in the toolbox to be able to overwhelm Murphy. Murphy's tough. Murphy has heart. Murphy um, is kind of has nothing to lose in this where Shevchenko is the one that has all the pressure on her. But I just think that Shevchenko just has so much weapons to give Murphy problems. And I think she beats her. So that's my prediction for Shevchenko versus Murphy. Now, the main event. The main event, which I think everybody is interested in, is Alexander Volkanovski versus Brian Ortega, which this fight is dead even, I believe, or the odds are not that far apart. I believe Volkanovski is a minus 180 favorite. It's a slight favorite compared to a plus 150 underdog in Brian Ortega, so it's close. That's almost a pick 'em at this point. The odds will probably move more towards that way when the fight starts. Um, it's both of them are just so evenly matched at 145 and in their skill set that it makes this very hard to call. It makes this fight really hard to call. But let's get into it. So when looking at this fight, one of the things that stuck out to me, and I think the biggest question out of all of this is just how improved is Brian Ortega, right? So Brian Ortega loses to Max Holloway, where Max Holloway puts on a masterpiece of a performance, and where he just pieces him up piece by piece and is able to get the stoppage. Um, and then he takes years away, changes his camp, and then he comes back with a refined striking ability, um, just a different mindset, different, you know, his defense way better than what before compared to what a Max Holloway was before. Game seemed like have a game plan going into this fight and is scouting his opponents more. Um, and then you always had the issue of him being a great submission artist, and now he has striking on top of that. Now we have somebody that's a problem, right? And he's also tough. We also know he could take punishment, and he also has that championship heart, even though he's not a champion. So, the question is Brian Ortega, if we're gonna get the same Brian Ortega we saw fight Chan Sung Jung? Because if we are, I think Brian Ortega can beat Alexander Volkanovski. I think Alexander Volkanovski is a great champion. I don't think Alexander Volkanovski get the credit he deserves. Granted, you could look at the Max Holloway fight. I think Alexander Volkanovski lost the second fight, but the fact that he was even debatable that he, you know, may have won, may have lost is a big feat because we know how good Max Holloway is. Um, and I believe Alexander Volkanovski, he hasn't lost a fight since 2013. He's on a 19 fight win streak. A 19-5 win streak. That doesn't get talked about enough. Just how good Alexander the Great Volkanovski is. He's beaten Max Holloway twice. He's beaten Jose Aldo. He's beaten Chad Mendez. He's beaten Darren Elkins. He beat Jeremy Kennedy. He beat Shane Young. He's beaten a lot of people. 19 fights. 19 fights. His only loss came back in 2013. And you just see the improvement of how he's getting better and better and better, and just how his fight IQ may be maybe possibly top 5, top 10 in the UFC. And I would love to create like a ranking or like a list of just like who has the best IQ in the UFC, both men and women. And I think Alexander Volkanovski would be on that list. I don't know where you would put him at, but he would definitely be on that list. He has a very, very sharp IQ for the game. Um, but I just think with Brian Ortega, that guy with his ability, I think he creates a lot of problems for Alexander Volkanovski. And one of the things I looked at in this fight was how Alexander Volkanovski, you know, he what he does in his fights, and what I think you should look out for is I think Alexander Volkanovski does a good job with throwing feints. He does a good job of his movement. But if you look at it, a lot of his movements are big steps side to side. If you look at what he did against Max Holloway in the second fight, a lot of his moves were moving side to side with big steps, and also when he throws his feints and whatever, when he throws his feints, he will also drop his hands. Keep in mind for that one for 1 second. Whereas with Brian Ortega keeps his guard high, and he'll move side to side, but it's small steps. It's not big noticeable steps where he's moving side to side. It's very small steps, and he's also conserving energy. At least for the chance on junk fight, we can't really. That's what we're hoping we'll see from Brian Ortega. That'd be a great fight. Um, but his moves are very slow. It's not taking big steps. He is taking his time. He's not trying to rush in, and he's also willing to be the counterpuncher. He's also willing to be the person that's on his back foot and try to counter you and try to catch you, which I think is very interesting in this fight because that's what Alexander Volkanovski loves to do. He loves to be the aggressor. He loves to be the one to move first. Which I think those two parallels where Brian Ortega is fine with moving backwards and catching and being a counterpuncher, whereas Alexander Volkanovski loves to be the one that moves forward and try to put the pace on you and try to score on points as well. Um, both of them, they're the leg kicks. I think the leg kick is going to be a big factor in this fight. It could be. Um, Alexander Volkanovski loves throwing leg kicks. Brian Ortega loves to do leg kicks too. I think the leg kicks are more there for Alexander Volkanovski. I think he can implement them more better than than uh, than Brian Ortega. Uh, One of the things that Volkanovski loves to do is Volkanovski loves to use leg kicks to disrupt the rhythm, right? So when somebody's trying to come forward, he'll throw an inside leg kick or he throw an outside leg kick um, to cause a disruption in the movement, and then he'll go with a hook, or he'll try to counter, or he'll try to go with a jab and move to the side, which he did well against Max Holloway. Um, Brian Ortega, he loves to do the same thing, but just not as much. Um, and I think another issue for Brian Ortega is that he keeps his guard high. So he'll there's two problems with that. One is yes, he's good at he has his hands up, he has his guard high. But one of the things that Alexander Volkanovski loves to do, he likes to go to the body. Whereas Chan Sung Jung likes to headhunt. Chan Sung Jung was going more trying to throw hooks, trying to throw jabs, trying to throw uppercuts. Where some of them landed, some of them didn't, but well, good most of them didn't. Where Brian Ortega was able to use his guard and able to either circle out to the side or counter with something else on his own. Whereas with Alexander Volkanovski, he likes to go to the body. So he'll rip the body more against Brian Ortega, which I think is going to be a big factor for Volkanovski. Is being able to hit the body. He's able to rip the body early on and able to get Brian Ortega to think. Then that leads to Brian Ortega dropping his hands to where Volkanovski's power could come into effect, and then you could have Volkanovski trying to go to the head and try to land cleaner shots against Brian Ortega, which I think will bode well for him. Um, and the other thing for that is, you know, Brian Ortega, you know, the one thing that you notice when the Chancellor Junk fight, yes, his guard is high and he's blocking them, but it seemed like he got a little confident in those moments where his guard is high and his defense is high, to where like Chancellor Jones able to land on him and against the cage, where like he'll accept being a counterpuncher and being the one that moves backwards because he's going to counterpunch, and his defense has gotten better, but also there's moments when he's against the cage and Chancellor Jones able to land on him and Brian Taylor just sitting there trying to defend, which I think you really can't do that with a guy against Volkanovski. I think he does a great job of mixing his strikes up, and I think again if he goes to the body, um, maybe throwing him some uppercuts as well. I think he could do a good job against Brian Ortega. Um, and also, uh, I think something like I brought up before, the feints, of Volkanovski is something where it does really well. It keeps your opponent guessing. It keeps your movement unpredictable. But also he has his moments where he'll drop his hands. So like if we watch the first round of the Max Holloway the second fight, you see he's stance switching, he's feinting, he's throwing feints, and he's taking those big steps like I said before. And there was a moment where he threw a feint, and then Max Holloway, he didn't do anything with it. Max Holloway threw a body kick, and he tried to go back to throwing feints and trying to uh, get Max guessing, and then he let his hands drop, and that's when Max Holloway hit the left high kick. I mean, the high kick to the left side and able to drop Volkanovski. I think that's something where you got to watch out for with Volkanovski. Is it's just sometimes when he throws those feints, he'll leave his hands down for a little bit, and then if Max Brian Ortega could time it, even if partially blocked, it can cause damage to Alexander Volkanovski. Another thing is that Brian Ortega, because of those big steps that Volkanovski likes to do, he takes big steps to the right and the left. One of the things we've seen from the Chancellor Junk fight, again, we're basing it off of that fight, we're getting that Brian Ortega, is that Brian Ortega was throwing body kicks. If he's implementing body kicks in this fight, I think that plays a big factor because of the fact of Brian Ortega, Alexander Volkanovski moving to that side. And as he's moving to that side, if he's moving to the right, because he'll take big steps. If he's moving to the right, I think Brian Ortega can catch him with body kicks on that side, and probably follow with a left hook or a hook or a depending on which way he's going. But again, those steps are noticeable when Brian when Alexander Volkanovski is doing it. If you look at it, um, yeah, and the biggest thing is the ground game, the submission. Um, Brian Ortega is known for his submission. He's T City for a reason. But he also has guillotines. He also has a bunch of other tools that he can use. Um, Alexander Volkanovski has to be careful not to lunge in. We've seen fights where if he has his opponent on the outside, um, that has his opponent back against the cage, kind of like again what Brian Ortega likes to is not has is fine doing, being the person to take a step back. He likes to lunge in and dive for a takedown. Now you can't do that against a Brian Ortega because Brian Ortega can snatch up a guillotine. He could drop down and try to snatch up a Darce. Um, in the clinch, even as that, he can lock up a flying triangle. Um, he can lock up a jumping guillotine. Like he has many tools to use to get Alexander Volkanovski out of there. So just lunging in for takedowns, just trying to not set things up and just going for those shots. That is a big factor in just Alexander Volkanovski's approach because he does that a lot in his fights. Um, Especially if on the feet, if Brian Ortega is touching him up, he will dive for a takedown. If he feels like he's losing the fight, he will dive for a takedown and try to win the round, which I think against Brian Ortega that is a big issue. Um, and I think he has to really think about how he's going to get on the inside. I would recommend possibly wearing down Brian Ortega. And then maybe in the third or fourth round, maybe then you start looking for takedown and start setting him up. But it's only then. Like I think he has to be careful early on. You know, there's a bunch of factors, a bunch of things you look at. It you could look at, you know, Alexander Volkanovski and the uppercuts. He lunges in with these he lunges in with these jabs and he straights that sometimes when he does that, and also being the smaller fighter, he leaves himself open for uppercuts. Where I think that's something where we've seen against the Frankie Edgar fight with Brian Ortega. He has that. He has it in his toolbox. He's able to fight going backwards, and I think in those moments, Volkanovski has to be careful. Um, I say this all to say that this fight, there are so many variables. Sorry, so many variables as to how they can get it done. I think overall, Alexander Volkanovski is the better striker. Uh, but I think Brian Ortega's many weapons, the submission game, the ability to strike. Now, if that's what we're getting, the coaching, the his ability to go 5 rounds. We know he can go 5 rounds and still keep the same pace. His poise and being more composed. I think Brian Ortega beats Alexander Volkanovski. I do. I think he beats Alexander Volkanovski. Um, sorry, I think he beats Alexander Volkanovski. I I'm not gonna sit here and say he finishes him. I think if a finish does happen, it'll probably be by submission. I think either he hurts him or he catches him in a submission, and that's the fight. But I think Brian Ortega beats Volkanovski by decision. I think that's how it will get done. Um, and it wouldn't surprise me if Alexander Volkanovski goes up there and beats Brian Ortega as well. But I think just with the many weapons that Brian Ortega can use against Volkanovski, I think he's the safer bet. And I think if you're trying to place money on anybody on this card, between Volkanovski and Brian Ortega, I think Brian Ortega can beat Alexander Volkanovski as an underdog. Um, yeah, okay. So you say you got T feedback. Yeah, yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I think there's just so many weapons for Brian Ortega that I think he does beat Valentin Volkanovski. And then that again, this sets up, like I said before, if Max Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez happens in November, um, being everything is okay and the fight goes on as planned. Let's say if Max Holloway beats Yair Rodriguez, then you have a rematch between either Brian Ortega or Alexander Volkanovski. So Max Holloway, who I think out of all three men is still that guy. So I think if you asking me if they was to fight 10 times who would win the most, I would say Max Holloway. I think if you're Max Holloway, you're hoping Brian Ortega beats Valentin Volkanovski, because then that will set up a rematch where I think that would favor more Max Holloway. And I think also Brian Ortega wants that fight back. So that's definitely a story that could be told by the UFC. Um, but I think Brian Ortega gets it done. I think he really does. Um, so we'll see. We will see. We will see. I'm excited. The pay per view was bought for me. I paid the $76. I'm ready for it to happen. So I can't wait to watch it and hopefully watch it with you guys on the Discord. Again, I'll do a watch along. I'm not going to stream the fight. I can't do that, for many of reasons. Um, but if you can watch it by any means of how you're watching it, buy a pay per view. I advocate for that. But um, definitely, I would definitely love to have you in the Discord and definitely be able to talk with you guys. And hey, whether you give me your predictions, give me what you think was going to happen. Give me your prediction in the comment section. Let me know what you think of who's going to win. I got Brian Ortega. I got Shevchenko. I don't know who's winning between Nick Diaz and Raul. I don't know. Um, yeah, uh, I'm gonna go Jose Rudenstruck beating Curtis Blades, and then I have Jessica Andrade beating Cynthia Calvillo. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think. I'll be back here tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning, like usual, doing a recap show. We'll discuss it all. Again, Discord, we want to watch along, and hopefully, I will have an interview out tomorrow. Hopefully, either tomorrow morning about 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock. I'm aiming for that. So let's see. We'll see what happens. But for now, hopefully, I'll see you later on tonight. My name is Tyriece Simon, and this has been the UFC 266 prediction show. Have a nice day, guys. Hopefully, I'll see you soon. If not, I'll see you